Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're taking on a really fascinating exercise. We're deconstructing the communication style of J.K. Rowling. Now, to be clear right out of the gate, our goal here isn't to debate her politics or take any sides. We are strictly here to understand her mechanics. We're going to look at excerpts from the vision and voice of J.K. Rowling to figure out exactly how she structures her worldview and look at the specific linguistic tools she uses to actually deliver it. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we're defining vision and voice. Second, themes in Rowling's vision. Third, the mechanics of her voice. Fourth, where vision meets voice. And finally, our final takeaways. Moving right into Section 1, defining vision and voice. This is our analytical framework. So we're focusing on a concept called the authorial framework. You can think of this as a two-part equation. The first part is vision. That's the what. It's the underlying worldview and the core beliefs that the author operates from. The second part is voice, and that's the how. This covers the specific rhetorical style, the tone, and the actual linguistic choices used to express that vision. By distinguishing between the what and the how, it allows us to analyze the source material with absolute objectivity. Okay, Section 2, Themes in Rowling's Vision. Let's look at the conceptual worldview. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens when we extract the high-level themes directly from the source material. Her stated vision centers heavily on three recurring concepts. First up, the morality of individual choices. This is the idea that our decisions matter far, far more than our inherent abilities. Second, we see the constant tension between love and the pursuit of power. And third, the absolute, inescapable necessity of facing uncomfortable truths. These right here are the foundational pillars of the what in her authorial framework. To really anchor this, let's look at her own words. It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. If we look at this strictly as a piece of data, it perfectly encapsulates her stated vision. It takes the weight of morality and places it squarely on human agency. So that establishes the what, but we have to ask the next logical question here. We've seen the themes that make up her vision, but what specific linguistic tools make up her voice? How does she actually construct the delivery of these ideas when she speaks? Which brings us to Section 3, the mechanics of her voice. We're talking rhetoric and tone. And this brilliantly illustrates a fascinating duality in her communication style across different contexts. It's like looking at two different architectural blueprints. On one hand, her literary storytelling tone is expansive, it's whimsical, deeply descriptive, and it's heavily designed to build emotional resonance. But when she shifts to her public advocacy tone, the syntax totally tightens up. It becomes concise, it's declarative, and it focuses on drawing firm boundaries through logical appeals. It's a complete shift in structural engineering. Let's break down the exact mechanics of that delivery. We observe three specific rhetorical techniques in the excerpts. First, declarative phrasing. She doesn't really pose questions in her advocacy, she states boundaries. Second, her rhythmic pacing. She literally slows down her speech to emphasize key unyielding arguments. And finally, she pivots away from the emotional anchoring used in her fiction, leaning instead into stark, logical assertions for public discourse. Here is a perfect textbook example of that distinct shift in action. I am speaking up because I believe we have a duty to protect vulnerable boundaries. Notice the mechanics at play here. It is declarative. I am speaking up. It asserts a moral premise. I believe we have a duty. And it draws a very firm line, protect vulnerable boundaries. We are observing how the syntax itself is built from the ground up to convey an unyielding stance. Okay, so we've isolated the vision, and we've isolated the voice. Now I want to pose this directly to you as we put the puzzle pieces together. How do the mechanics of her voice alter the delivery of her vision? When you take a conceptual theme about choices and you deliver it through declarative syntax, what actually happens to the message? Let's find out in Section 4, where vision meets voice. This is the synthesis stage. So the crucial point is how these two pillars interlock. When her vision regarding the morality of choices meets her voice mechanic of declarative phrasing, the resulting impact is a profound sense of absolute moral duty. It leaves very little room for ambiguity. Similarly, when her thematic focus on facing uncomfortable truths is paired with that rhythmic, slower pacing, it rhetorically forces the audience to stop, pause, and acknowledge the stark reality she's presenting. The worldview and the rhetorical style just interlock perfectly. And that brings us to Section 5, Final Takeaways. Let's do a quick methodology recap. I really want to leave you with the exact structured methodology we used today because this is a tool you can take with you for literally any media consumption. Step 1. Isolate the vision. Find that underlying worldview without getting distracted by tone. Step 2. Analyze the voice. Look at the syntax and the pacing as mechanical parts. And step 3. Observe the intersection, objectively, to see how those syntax tools shape and deliver the ideas. It is hands down the most efficient way to digest complex source material. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. How does an author's distinct voice ultimately shape both their literary legacy and public discourse? When the tools used to build magical, expansive worlds are repurposed to draw firm, logical boundaries in the real world, the impact of that communication is completely undeniable. It proves that the way we say something is just as powerful as what we are actually saying. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep analyzing, and I'll catch you next time.